Hey there everybody, this is part 2 of a 2-part series, so if you haven't seen part 1 yet, we'll go watch that one first, you goofball! Otherwise, let's get back to the challenge. Previously on Is It Possible, Pigman tried to beat Super Mario Sunshine without jumping, but then he discovered it wasn't possible, and then he got tired after Gelato Beach. Here's what happened next. Well, since we just finished up Gelato Beach, the next logical step to take is to go to Pinna Park. Woohoo! Shine 1 was to fight against Mecha Bowser, and since you're on a roller coaster the whole time, this one could just be completed normally. But the same could not be said for Shine 2. Taking out the mole was no problem, it was the secret level that was giving me issues. You'd think it'd be the disappearing platforms that were giving me trouble, but it actually wasn't. It was the platforms after them. The gaps were just barely too far away to dive across, so eventually, I had to commit to another 2 jumps. Shine 3 was an absolute slog to complete since I couldn't remember where all the red coins were. But other than that, this one was fairly standard. And Shine 4 was just as simple as usual. I just ground pounded the Snooze-a-Koopas, saved the sunflowers, and that's all I have to say. But before we move on to the rest of the shines here, there's one other very important thing we have to do first. This is the point in the game where you unlock Yoshi, and you do so by spraying Shadow Mario around Delfino Plaza until he drops his Yoshi egg. Now normally I just do this and move on, but there's actually a way to save a couple jumps here if we do this a specific way. You see, to unlock Sirena Beach, you have to use Yoshi to eat the giant pineapple that's blocking the pipe. And if we try to do this where Yoshi regularly spawns, there's no way to get him up there without jumping. That's where Shadow Mario comes in. When you defeat Shadow Mario, he'll drop the egg wherever he dissolves. This is the only time that the Yoshi egg can appear anywhere else in the level, which means we can use this to our advantage. Luckily, Shadow Mario runs right past the pipe we need to get Yoshi to, so all we have to do is spray him when he's next to the pipe, and we'll be gold. Doing this though is quite tedious, since it takes a really long time to lure him up there, but with enough practice, it can be done. But we're not done there. Yoshi still needs a piece of fruit to hatch from his egg, and getting one all the way up there was going to be difficult. Mario isn't able to use the flood pack while holding fruit, which means the only chance I had to get these bananas up there was to throw them. I was worried at first since most of the awnings were too high up for the fruit to get onto, but after a while, I found one that was low enough. Next, I had to use the hover nozzle to get on top of the awning and grab the fruit. For whatever reason, whenever you grab a fruit on the same frame you hit the awning, this tricks the game into thinking you're standing on solid ground. Doing this allows us to throw the bananas to this higher awning, use the same trick again, and then bounce down onto the first awning to get on top of the roof. Then after several more careful throws, we could finally hatch Yoshi and unlock Sirena Beach. Jeez, talk about a complicated process. I definitely needed a break after all that, so I went back to Pinna Park to finish up the rest of the shines there. Shine 5 normally requires you to climb up this long labyrinth behind the Ferris wheel, but I found a pretty simple way to bypass it all. I climbed back up where I was for the red coins, and was able to just hover through the Ferris wheel to get up top. After that, I just hovered up this slant, dropped down, used the hover nozzle to cling onto the skate, and knocked the Electric Koopa off his throne. But now it's time for another secret stage. Getting there this time was no problem, the issue was the level itself. This first part with the rotating cubes was actually pretty easy to get across, but I had to jump once to get to the next platform. Next up were these moving blocks, and believe it or not, I could actually dive between most of them, but my timing had to be stupidly perfect. I only had to jump for the red blocks, and once from blue to black. Afterwards, I had to jump once more to this orange block, and then 6 more times to climb up this tower. The shine was just barely out of reach, so I had to jump for that as well. So in total, this shine cost us 12 jumps total. Terrific! The last shine for this level was once again chasing Shadow Mario, so this one was pretty uneventful. And now after what felt like an eternity, we can finally get on with Sirena Beach. Shine 1 was aggravating as usual because the Mana Ray is just an awful boss. but it didn't really present me with any unique challenges. Shine 2 though was a different story. I could use the hover nozzle to get on top of these boo platforms, and everything was going okay. I even used this lamp at one point to get some extra height. But once I got to the secret level, all my hope was gone. This level had so many spots where I had to jump that it was literally driving me insane. There wasn't a single part the entire way that could be done jumpless. Everything was either too spaced out or required too much vertical movement, which really put a damper on my morale. But the worst part by far was the end. This pyramid of sand blocks was low enough that Mario could ledge grab the edges, but doing so fast enough seemed almost impossible. I'm not gonna lie, I think this was the worst part of the entire challenge. No joke. It seriously had me questioning my sanity because I knew it was possible, but it was just so difficult. After several hours of trial and error, so many errors, I was finally able to complete the level with a grand total of 21 jumps. Disgusting. And lucky for me, Shine Free was unfortunately the mysterious Hotel Delfino. I've explained my distaste of this shine plenty of times in the past, so I wasn't really looking forward to it after all I'd just been through. So I decided to find another way to get it. That's right, we're gonna cheat. My plan was to place this banana next to this wall and then hover into it so that it could maybe clip me inside. And after a dozen or so attempts, it actually worked. And since I was in the hitbox for this bed, that meant all I had to do was hover towards the shine and that was the end of it. Shine 4 was yet another secret level, but it was actually a bit of a break this time. I did have to jump twice to get across these pegs since they were just barely too far away, but everything else here was pretty easy. And speaking of easy, after that was an easy streak of shines. These include shines 5, 6, and 7. Now on to the next level. Noki Bay is an extremely vertically based level, so you can probably already tell how excited I was for this course. For Shine 1, I had to get Mario all the way to the top of the level, and as you can imagine, doing so was very complicated. I tried going up the normal way first, but was unsurprisingly stopped by a ledge that was too high up. That's when I remembered that there was a trampoline on the other side of the level that takes you really high up. So I used this bounce pad to get myself into these ruins. Then I used Flood to make it to the trampoline, which sent me all the way to the top of the level. But now I had a different problem. I was on the complete wrong side of the level. I knew I wouldn't be able to hover over there, so I sprayed the ground and dove to get some momentum, which got me all the way to this seashell. From there, I could make my way over to these platforms and use Flood to get back to the top. Then I could just barely hover back over to the wall. But we weren't done there. I then had to bounce off these rolling blobs of goo to get enough height to get all the way to the top. I think this shine was more complicated than my calculus final. But anyways, Shine 2 started almost the same as the last one. I used the same trick again to get up top, but when I got to the shell, I sprayed the ruins and went that way instead. I got pretty close to where I was supposed to fight the boss, but the last part required some wall jumps, so this path wasn't an option. So I decided to once again resort to using glitches. What I did was grab this spring and bring it down to this exact corner. By letting go of the spring at just the right angle, Mario clipped through this wall and was able to hover until he fell into the shine room, effectively bypassing the entire boss. Shine Free took place entirely underwater, so I couldn't have jumped even if I wanted to. And the same thing applied to Shine 4. Shine 5 though was actually pretty comical. It was another race against Il Piantissimo, and right as the race was starting, a punching glove appeared out of nowhere and threw me off the cliff. At first I was mad since I'd lost control for so long, but it was actually a blessing since it practically took me halfway to the finish line. I can't explain how it happened, so I guess I'll just take it. But then came along a secret stage, and this one didn't turn out so great. I mean, we literally start the level in a giant box that we're forced to wall jump out of. That's not a good start. And the rest of the level wasn't any better. There were a few parts where I could dive to save a few jumps, but most of the time, I literally had no choice. This level had no mercy. It was ruthless, it was agonizing, and it required a minimum of 18 jumps. Someone spare me. The Shadow Mario mission this time around was much more obnoxious than ever. He kept running up the side of the mountain, so I kept having to run all the way to the other side and slowly climb up just so I could slowly spray him over and over again. But soon he was down for the count, and we were only one level away from finally finishing the game. Pianta Village is usually my least favorite level in this game, but since it's pretty flat, I was hoping that it wouldn't be too bad. Shine 1 took place in the main part of the level, and could be completed fairly easily without jumping. Shine 2 was yet another race against Il Piantissimo, but once again, it wasn't very hard. I sprayed some water before I started diving to get some extra speed, which gave me just enough time to get first place. But Shine 3 was not looking nearly as hot. Well, actually it was, since the whole village was covered in lava, so... This is the only non-secret level Shine in the game where we don't have access to Flood, so this was going to be a challenge. Normally you're supposed to use these girders beneath the stage to get to the middle, but there's no way to do that without jumping off, so I needed to find another way. Eventually, I discovered that I could walk along this edge around the lava and climb up this tree. Once I was up, I dove from the top towards the middle of the stage where Flood was. I knew I wasn't going to have enough height to make it, but I got pretty lucky and landed on the swoop and stew which bounced me onto the first platform. From there, I had to do 3 more jumps to make it to Flood, and once I had him, I climbed back up the tree, sprayed some water and dove, and could now make it all the way to the mare to collect the Shine. Shine 4 was pretty harmless, but I ran into a bit of an issue with Shine 5. We need to get Yoshi beneath the stage so that he can eat the goop and unlock the secret level. But in order to do that, we have to jump across these mushroom platforms, which we can't do. But what we can do is hover down to where the goop is, shimmy to the left a little, and clip inside this tree. Then all we have to do is hover back towards the tree until we find the loading zone, and voila! The secret level was a turd sundae as usual, but at least it only took a minimum of 2 jumps to complete. And to make things even better, Shine 6 and 7 were also a piece of cake. Now that we have all 50 shines, it was finally time to tackle the final level. But first, I had to navigate through a flooded Delfino Plaza. I used the hover nozzle to glitch myself onto this awning, which allowed me to bounce onto this rooftop. I then had to use this Pianta as a trampoline to get up on this ledge. But now it was time. This was it. My final test, and I was so ready for it. And it was actually really easy. Most of this level is laid out horizontally, so it really wasn't all that different. But now it was time to face Bowser in a bathtub of his own filth. I used the rocket nozzle to get back to the tub without having to jump, and the rest was simple as could be. And after 5 hits, Bowser was defeated, and we have officially beaten Super Mario Sunshine with as few jumps as possible. But how many jumps did we have to make in total? Place your bets. The grand total was 81 jumps. Now, what are you going to do with this information? I don't know. This challenge was pretty pointless in the grand scheme of things, but at least it was pretty fun. Well, except for all those secret levels, and the absurd amount of glitches, and all of Sirena Beach, and I don't know about you, but I certainly need a vacation after all that. Luckily, I booked myself an extensive stay at a luxurious tropical resort. Once I'm there, I'll be able to cause so much mischief. Relax. Yeah, relax. Oh. Almost forgot this. Anyways, toodles! Well, I don't know about you, but I certainly need a vacation after all that. Luckily, I booked myself an extensive stay at a luxurious tropical resort. Hopefully once I'm there, my evil doppelganger doesn't try to take over the place with a magic paintbrush or anything. Wait, why do I hear sirens?